What's up guys, SkyKevin here, and I've been spending the last few days obsessively playing this new game currently in closed beta called Dark and Darker. Maybe you've heard of it, and there are currently 50,000 concurrent players as of writing this video. But suffice to say, it's a game that largely everyone has been enjoying as the hype train grew bigger and bigger. I want to go over my review of the game and my thoughts on it going forward. So, let's get started. Dark and Darker is an instance-based dungeon crawler with a tile-based item inventory that you transfer between entrances into the dungeon. Your character has a simplistic level and skill perk tree, but generally it's mostly gear-based. The best comparison people will make with this game is its obvious similarities to a game like Escape from Tarkov, but more or less in a fantasy setting. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You enter the dungeon and explore through the halls, looting chests and killing monsters as the dark swarm closes in around you. Eventually, some escape portals open up and you can leave the dungeon with all the gear and treasure you've accumulated from your exploits through the rooms. There are 6 different classes that you can choose from, and all the skills, abilities, and types are all very closely related to Dungeons & Dragons in many cases. You would think on paper this has been done a lot in previous games, especially with RPGs, but this game feels so much different mechanically, and I think that has been the allure of so many players so far. Let me explain. By using Unreal Engine, this game plays quite slowly. The attack animations and the move speed are all at a snail's pace. This isn't, though, to say that it's a bad thing. The engine itself lends to dynamic lighting, and even the attack animations obey all the physical properties of the environment around you. This is something that I think is largely going to go overlooked by most players, but is in essence some of the greatness and realism that is brought on by this game. For instance, the lighting, although a simple aspect of the game, works flawlessly to change your environment. Indeed, in many cases, I found that when I was playing a rogue, I could turn off all the torches in a hallway and become extremely difficult to see, at least to players that weren't doing any sort of gamma manipulation. And as a result, I found that I could fight solo against a full party of 3, not by being stronger, faster, or having better reflexes, but setting a trap and using my environment to equal the odds. There are many quirks that might not even be intentional placed into how this operates. The game has protection, healing, and invisibility potions that all sit on your player's belt when equipped. They give off their own illumination, and so when fighting in these dark hallways, it actually puts them at a huge disadvantage for the discerning rogue hiding in the shadows to target you. Another instance of the engine being unique is the physics of your weapon swings and how the angle at which you swing is genuinely affected by the environment. Like, if you're using a large war maul, it does a lot of damage, but the swing radius starts off the edge of your screen and goes so wide that it reaches from one side to the other. Daggers, on the other hand, will stab in a short range in front of you, and different swords and axes will meet somewhere in the middle. This means if you're in a narrow passageway or tunnel, your weapon will often hit the sides of the wall before actually making contact with your target. If you're out in the open, a spear might be more preferable. These types of mechanics can all be used to your advantage as long as you're in the right environment. Aside from the weapons and players themselves, you'll also run into environmental hazards as well. Now, the maps themselves are all pre-built and nothing is randomized, so you'll get to know each passageway very well. These are littered with traps and monsters that you can introduce into the mix to also add another layer of chaos. In one instance, I lured 6 mummies into a room and went invisible just to watch them mob a group of players long enough for me to stab one of them in the back and get away. It's a game that really rewards creative thinking and pushes you to put yourself in a constant state of kill or be killed as you venture through the dungeon. Now, this is only scratching the surface to what this game can bring to the table. It's really something you have to play to experience, and I'm only coming out with this video after the fact because I didn't want to waste a moment of playtime I had with the last beta. It's so unbelievably fun, and really there are many parts of the game that I think people have to play a few rounds before they actually understand what they're doing and how it all flows. As an example of this, the movement in the game itself is quite slow-paced. Traditionally, games usually have a more fast-paced action with running and dodging and reflexes, whereas this one takes multiple seconds for just one swing to follow through. But don't let this discourage you when first giving it a try, as it really works for the type of game that it is. It almost needs to operate on this slower timescale to balance the speed of the weapons, the spells and even the ranged attacks. To me, it feels more like a turn-based fight, while still having action elements added onto it, which at this point, I wouldn't suggest any really large overarching changes to how that works. The beta so far has had some pretty solid changes and updates throughout the course of the test. The developers were honestly on top of everything, and were coming out with daily hotfixes to address large bugs and balance changes during the event. I ran into a couple myself, but generally they were fixed by them within a matter of days, something that I'm not all that used to from previous indie developers. The only change I think I could suggest to them is including a blue home portal at the center end of every single map. This way you don't have instances where you've pretty much survived the entire dungeon, only to run around in the darkness, searching for a portal, and losing just to dumb RNG as the time runs out. Other than that small detail, it's a very solid PvP game. As far as I'm aware, they do have other features coming out before release, including quests, expanded talent trees, and hopefully localized VoIP, and possibly one day even a bard class. Either way, the state of the current beta is fantastic, and I'm sure once it launches with actual progression, it'll be a huge force in the gaming community with something unique for players, especially ones looking for that next hardcore PvP-based game with some new flair added onto it, and especially one that's quite unique. The next beta starts on the 6th of February 2023 for the Steam Next Fest, and based on the hype for the game so far, I think it'll do quite well if it releases relatively early into the year. If they wait too long, they'll have a lot of recently announced hard-hitter games looking to come out during the middle of 2023 to compete with. But we'll see how that all goes. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.